Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 102-99 loss to the Boston Celtics. Riker, I know a lot of people are going to be really disappointed in this game, and obviously going down an 0-2 hole, it's not unsurmountable, but it's really unfortunate, especially when you're playing a tough Boston Celtics team who we got to give a lot of credit to, have played really well in these first two games, but I'm throwing it out here right at the jump. With all that's gone on, I'm not unconfident in the rest of the series. I still have a lot of hope, and I still believe the Raptors will be able to win this in 6 or 7, Riker.
Well, that makes one of us, Ben, and that's 50% of this podcast. And if you're an optimist, that's, 50% glass half full. So I'll take
Deep
that.
Analytics.
But Ben, I had to pull out the deep stats in order to really make, put 2 and 2 together on that one, Ben. But I didn't think the Raptors had any business losing this game. To go into the fourth with a 10-point lead, to let Marcus Smart, of all people, 29% three-point shooter, hit 5 threes in a row on you, to not be able to close, turnovers and madness. Ben, it was a tough pill to swallow this game.
The Marcus Smart stuff killed me. Marcus Smart is not a shooter. He's randomly shot 40% this year on pull-up threes, but he's not known as a three-point. He's a defender. He's a guy that the Celtics fans usually in the playoffs just get really mad at him because he shoots so many shots. He's only a 35% three-point shooter, 29% in the postseason. I think that's this year. So it's really unfortunate to see that 29% is gonna go up after tonight. But the fact that he was hitting contested threes with hands in his face, I believe they were all contested after that first one, and Fred VanVleet just couldn't. No one could really answer him on the other end when the game really mattered. The fact that we lost that duel to Marcus Smart, of all people, is just really unfortunate.
Well, that's going to be the challenge down the stretch of any close game in this Boston Celtics series, because they have such terrific guards. 4 terrific perimeter players that have ball handling ability. Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Marcus Smart. They can all put the ball on the floor. They can all shoot. Marcus Smart shouldn't be able to shoot, but he shot well tonight, so I'm going to include him in the mix. And the Raptors, normally the ball's going to go through a big guy, but that's not the case with this team. So down the stretch is going to be incredibly tough to close out games if the Raptors are also not scoring and keeping up with it. So they need to finish. They need to do their job early, or they need to score. And that's what's doubly disappointing, is that a guy like Marcus Smart not only steps up, but Pascal Siakam turns the ball over. He's an absolute liability out there in the fourth quarter down the stretch in these clutch minutes. Mr. Kyle Lowry, 0 for 7. Fred VanVleet, 25% from 3. There was a lot of shortcomings in this game, which was still close, still only a 3-point game, for goodness sakes. Came down right to the last possession.
Yeah, and for all the things that you just brought up, Riker, not a lot of that is the Celtics defense. There's a lot of open shots to be had for this Toronto Raptors team, and I started the podcast opening with, I believe the Raptors will be able to come back and win this one, because if you look at game 1, we shot 25% from 3, and the Celtics shot 43%, 44, 43.6 to be exact, and tonight, same sort of deal. The Raptors shot 27% from 3 on 40 attempts, and the Celtics shot, 27%, the Celtics shot 40% on 38, so That's the game right there. The Toronto Raptors are playing phenomenal defense on Boston. Boston's playing solid defense, but Boston's just hitting more of those open looks, and that's the real difference maker. And if we make just one of those, this game's a tie game. And a lot of them were just completely open, and I don't know. I just can't see Siakam, Lowry, and Fred all struggling to this extent all at once another time. I just don't see that happening. Those are 3 main offensive pieces, and you brought up their shooting splits, and I know the Celtics defense is good, and I know Siakam's struggling, and he's about to be completely bashed all over Twitter and stuff, and Lowry with his 0 for 7 shooting, though there's probably memes already made about the new trash bros or something like that, but this team is strong, this team is resilient, and we just need to see a couple shots go through the rim, and when the Raptors did look moderately at their level as they did in the first half and going into the fourth, essentially before Marcus Smart went absolutely el fuego from 3. the Raptors look like they would easily get this win, despite the fact Tatum had a strong game, despite the fact, the Celtics, they did have a slow game from Kemba Walker, but everyone else played up to their usual levels. So I'm still confident in this Raptors team, Riker.
Yeah, it's good that you're confident, and I guess to put some logic to the reason that the Raptors might be playing such inconsistently is because last season they started off just as bad in almost every series, dropping those first games, dropping the first two against Milwaukee, but they had Kawhi to steady the team. They had a guy of that personality that could take the ball, even in tight, clutch, down the stretch situations. He would make the right play, the right pass. He wouldn't turn over the ball unnecessarily. Those things is very, they're important. I don't know what the proper word I'm looking for. Pivotal, I guess, on a team where, you can lose direction really easily if the game starts getting out of control. And that's what we saw in the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter. It seemed like the ball was running through Siakam. I thought that was by far the wrong decision. I've defended this guy now for 12 games, and I hate to bite my words, but I just felt uncomfortable every time he touched the ball down the stretch. I thought it would be in much better hands if it was with Kyle Lowry or Fred VanVleet or even Serge Ibaka. But with him, he just wasn't playing in a way that you would think it's going to result in a good possession. Whether or not it's a score, it could be a miss, but just the right shot or the right pass. I just wasn't confident that Siakam was going to do that. And you look to other teams like, why did the Heat just beat the Bucks in that first game? Well, because Jimmy Butler is that guy. Or in this game, Kemba Walker, he's the guy that can steady it and get that step back jumper. So to me, Kyle Lowry needs to be that guy, Ben. And I'd agree. I don't think Kyle Lowry's going to shoot as bad. And I think we saw as well, if they're closing out on his three, he had tremendous luck with attacking the paint, drawing the foul, right? I think Fred VanVleet could maybe do similar things. OG Anunoby was hitting all of his shots. So I don't think the ball needs to be forced through Pascal Siakam, and I think that's the adjustment we're going to see made in this game 3.
And I think we'll get into the end of the game more so in the segments, but I like that you brought up OG Anunoby. 20 points, 7 rebounds. I watched this game in my OG Anunoby jersey, and I've been on this mountain, just on this cliff, screaming this the whole bubble, and honestly for longer than I probably should have, but OG Anunoby needs the ball, man. He needs the basketball. He's a good dribbler. He can shoot the three, and he had some really nice takes when he had opportunities to drive on defenders of the likes of Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. Those are two of the best on-ball defenders in the whole entire NBA, and OG was just playing strong. His finishing around the rim is absolutely remarkable, and I don't know, I love seeing an engaged OG Anunoby, and tonight we saw that happen. He's performed. He obviously didn't play in the playoff stretch last year, but in his rookie season, he had a really good playoff series against the Wizards, was one of the only guys that played up to par against LeBron James when he ended up sweeping us, and against the Nets, we didn't really need anyone to step up, but in these first 2 games, OG has looked like the most steady guy, and that's goes a lot to say when we have a guy named Steady Freddy on the roster.
Yeah, but I made the point, I thought OG had the capacity to make 1 or 2 games where he's getting 15 to 20 points. I still don't expect him to be able to do that on a night-to-night basis just because he's the 5th option, and that's how Boston is going to treat him. But, if they're able to sag off of Siakam a little bit or maybe take the pressure off him a little bit, then and push it over to OG, it'll open up other guys, or they're going to keep the same game plan because they're feeling confident, and OG's going to have that opportunity to continue to score. But either way, I don't think OG is the problem, nor do I think he is necessarily the solution, because we know he's not going to command the ball at the end of the game. He's not going to take that final shot. He's not going to be the guy. It's going to be Kyle Lowry, or it's going to be Pascal Siakam.
Serious question. What would you rather? Have a Pascal Siakam isolation at the top of the key, or an OG Anunoby isolation at the top of the key to end the game? What are you running with as head coach of the Toronto Raptors right now?
Wait, are we on the podcast right now?
Yeah. Okay.
Would I rather Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby?
Yeah, running an ISO to win the game.
Honest, dude, with the example of these last 2 games, I would be more confident with OG Anunoby to do a spin move and finish a poster dunk with contact over 3 people than Pascal Siakam take an open layup.
No, I honestly, well, I'm always an OG stan. The podcast people know that. That's a question I'm throwing out to everyone out there. But yeah, no, I'm in agreement. He could be the solution to have more of an offensive load, as you brought up, as the fifth option. Obviously, OG's not going to be running the offense completely through him, but I do think he needs a few more touches, as you were saying.
Yeah, well, that was my only point. It was I don't think he's going to win or lose the game for the Toronto Raptors because in the late game situation, he's not the guy that's going to be getting the ball. He's going to maybe receive it on a kick out, but we need somebody who is more reliable in those last 2 minutes. And I've hoped over the past 12 games that Siakam would return to being that guy. But if it's not the case, we can't lose 4 games in a row just because we're so stubborn to want Siakam to be that player. It needs to come from someone else.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. And we'll talk about more at the close of this game by an obvious sort of segment. But let's look at the bench a little bit because we brought up Norman Powell a little bit. He really struggled in this one tonight. Couldn't get his game going. There's a couple possessions where he just couldn't catch the ball. I don't think it led to turnovers, but he was past the basketball and he just fumbled it a lot. And he only had 4 points, 1 assist, 1 of 5 from the field. And the only other guy, Norm had the 4 points, only other guy that scored off the bench tonight was Serge Ibaka with 17 points, 9 rebounds. He's been phenomenal. The ability to shoot the three, he's been an absolute beast. We've been raving about Ibaka seemingly the whole late bubble. He struggled a little bit in the early games, but Boucher, TD, Norman Powell, those are the other guys that came off the bench. Really couldn't get their games going.
No, Ben, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think the solution is? Because it's clear that the rotation has been very tight. Give heavy minutes to the starters, and again, we thought this might be exactly the way that it unfolds because we know that the starters, all of those guards mentioned at the beginning for the Boston Celtics, are gonna run heavy minutes as well. So we're probably gonna match them up against the starters. But is the solution maybe to just put out the bench guys for extended time and see what they can do, see if they can build a spark or get some chemistry going out there on the floor? Or, is this series just not for them, Ben?
Like, obviously the statistics don't show much positives for the bench guys, clearly, from, outside of... We're not debating Ibaka right now. Ibaka needs more minutes. He only got 27 minutes tonight. Gasol, really isn't a series, but we'll leave Ibaka to the side for this, but Norman Powell only got 13 minutes to run tonight. 6 minutes for Terrence Davis, 9 minutes for Chris Boucher. They were all pretty staggered. TD and Boucher, I don't know if they got in before the first quarter. I don't think they touched the floor in the first. So I wouldn't mind them to see them scattered. Get more extended run with the starters. Get them a few touches because we know how much TD and Boucher are really confidence guys. Even Norman Powell. Right, those are players that sort of, once they get a rhythm going, they completely change the flow of your offense. But you have to give them touches, and obviously we never ran any real plays for TD or Boucher. But Norman Powell didn't really come into the game engaged, and I guess you can't play him if he's going to be fumbling the ball everywhere. He had a couple of nice takes in the second half, but Ryker, I think you gotta try, because this is our big advantage against the Boston Celtics, the depth. Right? And if TD, Boucher are not giving it to you, and we've been saying that these are the two guys we want to see as our sort of 8th and 9th players to seemingly get minutes, maybe you got to go with the hustle man chap, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. I know he can't shoot threes, but he does bring a different sort of speed to the game, a different sort of energy, and might mess up some of the wing guys on the Boston Celtics. And I know every game for this season, people have been screaming and yelling for this. Do you want to sound off a bit on Matt Thomas? Because I'm still sort of undecided on whether he should maybe get a chance or not.
No, this has got to be the worst series for Matt Thomas because you can hide behind a bad defender with your rotation defense if there's guys that aren't shooters, right? If there's guys that aren't skilled, because when a guy switches off, you can just have Matt cover that person.
Yeah. Yeah, at least
Did you chime in with something?
At least one guy on that team that's an unskilled player.
Yeah, exactly. But when they have these 4 great guards, he's going to get blown by easily because he was getting blown by the Brooklyn players. Mm-hmm. And that rotation, you just can't have Marc Gasol shifting over to somebody like that. Or, even Serge Ibaka, for as incredible as his defense is for his size. I think that it's not the series where you can have such a liability on defense. And no matter how good his or how much of a threat he would be on the offensive end. I think you need to see your minute or your minutes given to somebody that can play better or more evenly on both ends. And I'm looking at Norman Powell, right? I'm looking at maybe a lineup with our two guards, our starting backcourt, Norm at the 3, maybe OG at the 4, and Siakam or Ibaka at the 5, something like that. But in my opinion, Norman Powell needs more run, and Matt Thomas has to stay on the bench. But it's not, the starters just aren't getting it done. But it's also a hard argument to make because they had the lead going into the 4th, and you're not usually going to play your bench to close out a game, right? And this game was in the Raptors' hands for a majority.
Yeah, this game should have been a win, but Marcus Smart came out with probably the best shooting performance, best shooting quarter by far of his career, just knocking down threes. So that was an unfortunate thing. I guess the one take against that, because I'm on the fence about seeing if Matt Thomas should go. I guess the argument against that would be the Raptors defense has been great in the series. Obviously, some players are going to go off for the Boston Celtics, which is going to happen, but keeping them to 100 points in this one, and after a ridiculous first quarter for Boston, those last 3 quarters, there was solid defense played by the Raptors, but the offense is really where the Raptors need help right now, and Matt Thomas' shooting would be a positive. So let us know what you guys think on that. Would you like to see Matt Thomas hustle Jeff? Maybe a Stanley Johnson or Paul Watson sighting maybe in these games. I don't know. Let us know in the comment section below. But Ryker, let's swing into the segments tonight. The spicy P-lay of the day. And there was a lot of positive plays for the Raptors in this one, but the one that's got to go to was the guy that we most raved about in this game. OG Anunoby came down. It was like a little reverse sort of baseline thing, got pushed out of midair and finished an and one dunk in the paint. He had a lot of nasty jams in this one, Ryker.
Yeah, and he can just jump from 2 feet on the ground so well. Like quick, explosive, and to finish that over Grant Williams with contact and a push off, it was very impressive. And he had a few dunks like that this game, Ben.
Yeah, no, most definitely. But not all plays can be the spicy P-lay of the day, and some just make you say, oh, geez. And I think we've talked about one of the OGs definitely at length in this podcast, the Marcus Smart barrage of threes. But I'm going with another one, Ryker. Robert Williams coming in at the start of this game and looking like a prime Shaquille O'Neal for like another 4 or 5 minute stretch. What happens to Robert Williams when he plays against the Toronto Raptors? Because I talked to everyone that watches the Celtics. Obviously, I've watched a few games from them, not against the Raptors, but he's not supposed to be that good,
I don't know. They are the defending champs, and it feels good to beat the king of the hill, but I definitely agree. I mean, to me, he's their 4th center. I thought it went Tice, Cantor. I mean, it's obvious why you're not going to play Cantor. Same reason you're not going to play Matt Thomas in this series. And then Grant Williams, and then Robert Williams. But he's been playing really deservedly in this series.
Yeah, no, he's been a beast against the Toronto Raptors, and pretty well every game we've played against him in the bubble. And he went down with a minor injury. I don't know if that's anything too serious, but yeah, we got to find a way to stop him. And it's kind of crazy how Marc Gasol is able to shut down a guy like Joel Embiid, but then Robert Williams of all people comes into a game and just in the pick and roll completely decimates us. So that's an interesting thing. But finally, the infamous, the one, the only DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award. There will not be any name change unless the Raptors sort of flip this around. But we alluded to it earlier. The end of this game was just a horrific end, and that's the one thing where I could definitely see people being scared, and this is the one area that I would be nervous going forward throughout the rest of the series, is our ability to close the games, Ryker. And you brought it up, Siakam dribbling in the clutch when all the defense is focused on him. They had their best defender, Marcus Smart, switch onto him. We talked about this in the preview. He just completely stripped him of the basketball, and then we got lucky. It went out of bounds off Smart, and then just steps on the out of bounds line, not having that spatial awareness at such a critical moment in the game. That's a DeMarre Carroll Gold Star worthy moment there. And then one that probably won't get talked about as much, Fred VanVleet during the end of this one as your point guard, your floor general. Obviously Lowry's the main floor general, but Fred VanVleet's supposed to be our next point guard, looking for that max contract and stuff. And to not have that space of mind, I'm pretty sure we had a timeout. To not call a timeout and force up a 3 over Tatum, that's a tough moment right there.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't even think about that. But no, I think it's all on Siakam. And I'm not trying to be too overly critical.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't take away from anything that I said over the past 12 games. I still believe that he is a good player. But in this particular game, when somebody's consistently not getting it done down the stretch, you can't keep going to him. It needs to come from someone else. And so his execution was just very flawed. And yeah, Marcus Smart, he is a terrific defender. But when your 6'10" power forward is getting shut down by a I don't know how tall Marcus Smart is, but yeah, in the post. So I had a lot of concerns, and you summed it up perfectly, Ben. If you do have a concern of this Toronto Raptors team, it would be how are they going to close out games? Because they can win against the Boston Celtics, but it'll probably be if they have a sizable lead, if they just maintain that. I don't know how many games in a row they'd win if it came down to scoring in those last 2 minutes.
Yeah. And that little rant is not to say I'm anti-Siakam having the ball down the stretch, but if someone's struggling to really get their game going in their areas and stuff, and I have confidence Siakam is capable of getting back to that level, right? I'm not saying I'm sure it's surely going to happen, but you got to go to players that you can trust. And, Siakam is trustable when he's focused, engaged, and he's Siakam looks like two different players on any given night. Sometimes he's that all-star starter, and sometimes he's that sort of still a good player, but that clear number 2 option to a star. There's this duality to Siakam's game, and when that's the case and he's struggling like he is tonight, I think you got to give the ball to Lowry. Even if he's 0 for 7 from 3, he'll make the right decision. That's the thing about Kyle Lowry. Whether he gets it going or not, he had the highest plus-minus for the Raptors tonight, despite struggling from 3. He'll make the right decision, and that's who I feel like you got to go to. Maybe even Fred VanVleet. OG if he's running an ISO, I don't know. That's what Ryker said.
It's a tough one, Ben. But listen, let's hold any more speculation until the next game. We both agree that, I said the series is over. If this game 2 was a blowout, but this was a close game. Arguably, the Raptors could or should have won it, and I think that they're going to come out with a slightly tweaked or improved strategy for game 3. I mean, I know they're playing away. They're playing on the road, Ben, but they could still do it.
Big question, though. I know we're going long. You still with Raps and 6?
No. If anything, 7, but not the Raps and 6 anymore.
You heard it here first. I'm still rocking with Raps and 6. I might have egg on my face or something like that, but that's still my prediction. Let us know what you guys think going in this one. I'm sure it's not going to be the best of things, but Raptors were down 0-2 to the Bucks last year, and I'm more confident. And both you and I still were very confident after that 0-2 loss, though that 0-2 series thing. We did have Kawhi, but we'll see how it goes. You're the best to make this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. You have any last words, Ryker?
That's it for me, Ben. Cheers.